Hi, my name is Farbnivi and welcome to Grockit TV GMAT Test Prep and MBA Admissions course. Later on, Stacy Blackman is going to join us and take us through the MBA Admissions portion of the course. But for now, let's jump into our first GMAT class where we're going to get a high-level introduction to the GMAT and then we're going to drill into the critical reasoning lesson 1. So you can go ahead and follow me here. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, my name again is Farbnivi. You can follow me on Twitter at Farbud, and that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me is send a tweet with @Farbud. Also, I'm the founder of Grockit. I've been a test prep instructor for about 10 years in the GMAT, the LSAT, the MCAT, the GRE, the SAT, the ACT. It's a long list. I've worked for the Princeton Review, I've worked for Kaplan, and I was honored to be the Princeton Review's National Teacher of the Year back in the day when I worked at the Princeton Review. But now I'm the founder of Grockit, and we're launching our first Grockit TV course with you guys live. As we're about to do that, we're going to obviously talk a lot about the GMAT, so let's start at a really high level and just ask ourselves, what is the GMAT a test of? The simple answer would be there's some math questions, there's English questions, grammar questions, reading questions, and certainly we have to deal with these challenges. But the GMAT isn't really a test of how good you are at math or how good you are at English grammar. It's really a test of your information management skills. And when you think about the test that way, it makes a lot more sense, especially when you're thinking about getting an MBA and being a business person and having to manage a lot of information quickly and effectively. So the GMAT is really an attempt at a test of your information management skills with the questions being in the guise of math and English questions. So how does our course work? Well, it's absolutely free to watch live. You can watch all 16 sessions of our course over the next 8 weeks while we're streaming it live to you completely for free. If you want to rewatch any of the episodes or download it to your iPod or iPad, you can do that. The course is just $99 to have access to the entire 16 sessions. And after the course ends, it'll also be available, but it'll be a little bit more then. So you're free to, we'd love to have you join us here twice a week over the next 8 weeks. And you can join us for free just by going to grockit.com/TV. So here we are, a whole group of us of GMAT test takers. We look like good, successful business people. We're ready to take the GMAT and we're ready to become MBA stars. So our job here for the GMAT portion of the course is to turn ourselves from these fine-looking people into what I like to refer to as GMAT robots. So we're going to learn to turn ourselves into a machine that will take the GMAT as input, we will process it, and we will give GMAT answers as our output, and we will have a methodical way of going through that. Every type of question that we see, we will know before what we're going to be up against and how to process that type of question. We'll give ourselves all of the rules and regulations for being a GMAT robot, so we're going to go from this before to this after, and you'll hear me say that a couple more times as we go through the course. So, who makes the GMAT? We asked ourselves, what is the GMAT a test of? It's a test of our information management skills, and now it's time to ask ourselves, who makes the GMAT? So, the GMAT is made by people who have a type of name, and they're called psychometricians. So psychometricians are people who have PhDs in psychometrics, which is essentially psychology plus statistics. It's a lethal combination insofar as being able to make standardized tests is concerned. So psychometricians are the professionals that design and administer and analyze exams They're very thoughtful, methodical, and they have lots of algorithms and statistical models that help them do that. And in Grockit, we apply those same models in our application to adapt the system to you and to provide you the full-length CATs that we do that give you a predictive GMAT score. So we have our own psychometricians on staff that are essentially helping you figure out the GMAT and design our system so that it's based on similar algorithms. So there are a couple of ways we could make a test, and it's important to understand that the GMAT picks one of these designs. So we could make a test where each question just gets successively harder, but we had a long time to do it, say even days, several days to work on this exam. And in this situation, we would go maybe from questions that started as 2 plus 2, but by the time they got near the end, they were asking us questions about quantum physics, and very few people, even given several days, could get to the point where they could answer the quantum physics questions. And the GMAT doesn't take this tact. The sort of inverse of this would be to make a test where the questions are essentially doable, if you will, but you're not given enough time. Not enough time. And this is the tact that the GMAT takes, and most standardized tests take, and tests sort of in general do. So we have a test that is doable. The math on the GMAT is, in American sort of high school mathematics. It does not get into calculus or any math beyond high school. And the English are sort of accepted grammar rules, and we will see that they don't even really address all the possible grammar rules. They address a handful of them. Again, the test is the GMAT is a test of our information management skills. The questions are relatively doable. We can also learn them if we don't know them now. The test just does not give us enough time. So what we're going to be concentrating on is making sure that we can be effective and efficient when we're taking the test, and that would be like a robot, right? We're going to turn ourselves into GMAT robots. So let's talk about our brain, because our brain will be important when taking the GMAT. And psychologists understand how the brain works, and there's a phenomenon that occurs that a lot of people are familiar with when they take exams. And you see we have our cerebral cortex, which we can also call our new brain, evolutionarily speaking, and we have our old brain. And in the new brain we do a lot of our thinking. We also process language and vision, a lot of vision processing, and human beings have very developed cerebral cortexes. But our old brains are sometimes called our reptilian brains because anatomically they're very similar to a reptile's, and this is where we're processing things like smell. We're also processing our emotions. And this is important on the GMAT or in any state of heightened stress or emotion. What happens is, being as our brains are sort of anatomically designed this way, our old brain can sort of take over our new brain, if you will, when we get nervous and stressed, and our sort of thinking turns off. And we've all had that experience where we're on a test and there is a fill-in-the-blank question, and we can't think of what the word is, but we know what the word is because we were just talking about it a few minutes ago, but our nervousness sort of shuts that information in our brain off, and we can't think of it until a little bit later. So the time crunch elevates our stress, and then we often resort to not having full access to our brains, so that's also part of why we want to become sort of robotic and rule-driven about it, so that this doesn't occur. Also, the thing to take in mind is that our brain is taxed with two tasks on the GMAT. One is to process information, the other is to remember information. And on the GMAT, you'll have a pad that you can use to write and draw on, and that pad, if you use it correctly, should replace the task on your brain. So this is sort of the range of the GMAT scores and what sits in the middle, and this curve is very important to the GMAT or any standardized test. Great. So let's talk about some resources for the GMAT and MBA admissions prep. You may know about these and you may not. The first one, of course, MBA.com, is where we register for the GMAT. And I think something really important here is to go and download the GMAT bulletin. Go ahead and download this. It's a PDF that you can access at MBA.com. And the GMAT bulletin will give you all of the rules and regulations for the GMAT. So don't listen to your friends that have taken it or are taking it, and quite frankly, don't really even listen to your instructor, because the GMAT bulletin can change whenever the GMAT wants it to. So it's important for you to know that you're getting the most recent set of rules, and you can access that here. It will tell you about registering for the GMAT. It'll tell you what you can bring on the day of the GMAT. It'll tell you about the rules around breaks on the GMAT. So for example, if you want to take a break during your GMAT during a section, you'll have some optional breaks that are given during the test, but you can also take a break in the middle of a section. So will the clock run while you take that break, or can you pause the clock in the middle of a section to take a break? Well, you can take an official break during the test, and the administrator will change your computer to break mode, should change your computer's mode for you to be on break, but the clock will still run. So that's a regulation that I read recently in the GMAT bulletin, but that could change. So it's important for you to know what's going on accurately and most recently. So download the GMAT bulletin from MBA.com. I told you about some of the resources at Grockit. We have full-length CATs that you can take, computer adaptive tests like the GMAT that will give you a GMAT score. We have thousands of GMAT questions that you can answer and work on your own. And more importantly, with all of the students that are taking this course, it's important for you to all work together in group study. This is how I've always taught my courses. This is how I've been able to get my students the results that I've gotten them. Because being able to teach somebody else a piece of the course that you understand is more helpful to you, quite frankly, than it is to them, even if you taught them something they didn't know. And I know this as a teacher of many years. The more I teach it, the better I got, and the test is much, much easier for me now than when I began teaching, but that's because I've been teaching the course. So we designed Grockit to help leverage that, and you can get the most out of combining your solo practice with group study and then working with instructors as well. Beat the GMAT is an excellent resource, forum, source of resources in different forms of media. It's just a real all-around good GMAT resource for anyone that's preparing for the test or their MBA, and lots of other students to sort of connect with like you can in Grockit. And then StacyBlackman.com, of course, we're big fans of Stacy Blackman. She's the top admissions consultant in the MBA space, and she has many years of experience getting students into the top schools all over the world. So if you need a free consultation, I believe they do provide that at StacyBlackman.com, but she can tell you more about that a little bit later.